conversation. Let's keep your mission first in our hearts, fill us with your spirit. We love you. In your name we pray. Amen.
And all right. Well, listen, ultimately the goal would be to do this in an hour, but I think we might go an hour and 15. So hopefully you guys can carve out that extra 15 minutes and go an hour and 15. I've got 4 topics that I want to go over with all of us. And it's going to be best if we're all able to chime in. So you can, I don't think we have the raise the hand feature on this particular one. So you can either use the chat box and Andrew will watch the chat if you have a question, or you can just, raise your hand for us and kind of wave your hand, and we'll make sure that you get in and get your 2 cents in. The way this thing is going to work, obviously, too, is for all of us to chime in and be able to help each other. So Ed Stetzer's been saying that there's a 4-part phase to this. Part 1 was the pause, so we've already gone through the pause. Phase 2 was the challenge of figuring out, how we all become televangelists overnight. So we've already accomplished that. We're already in phase 3 right now, which is kind of like cruise control of figuring this thing out and moving forward from here. But phase 4 is going to be what's next on the horizon. And we're going to talk about that as well. That's going to be our last segment, which is the re-engagement segment, or for us, for church planners, it's going to be the relaunch segment. So the 4 parts that we're going to look at today, guys, part 1 is going to be, what have we learned? The second part today is going to be, what will we continue? The third part is going to be, now what? And the 4th part is going to be re-engagement or the relaunch. So let's start under category number 1. What have we learned? So I think obviously we have learned that the gospel throughout all the centuries has never been silenced. And once again, it will never be silenced. So within a matter of a couple of days, the church worldwide across all denominations all went virtual overnight. And that's pretty amazing. The second thing I think we're learning right now is that most everybody is understanding and accommodating, and they're actually, to a certain extent, liking this idea of watching church Facebook Live or whatever platform you're using, and they're quickly growing accustomed to it. I think the other thing that we are able to learn is that being church planters, we are able to quickly adapt to our circumstances and the problems that come up. Beyond those obvious elements right there, what else are we learning? So if you guys want to wave your hand or just unmute yourself and go for it. We don't have that many guys on here that we can't do this. So if you guys got something to say, chime in. What else have we been learning in this last 3 weeks of being virtual? All right. So, Patrick, what have you learned in the last 3 weeks?
For me, I've learned several things. Number one is how much we are driven by relationships and the need for that. I've seen more people walking and spending time with their immediate family. So I think just that powerful reminder that we are wired and created in the image of God, and He's a relational God. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, one of the things we've learned is our online engagement has been overwhelming. I've been blown away by that. And so for us, we had an elders meeting last night, and we're talking about how do we live stream starting May 10th. It looks like here in Colorado, the goal is to have the kids back in school in our district on May 4th. That means we could be back into the school on May 10th, possibly. I'm not holding my breath, but one of the things we are working towards is live streaming. The feedback, people keep saying, can we please continue to do this after we begin to meet? We live in such a mobile culture, and I didn't realize how impactful this was going to be for our church. So those are the two things that I've learned in this whole season of COVID.
Okay, good. Clint, what have you learned? I'm just going to start calling on you guys. So Clint, what have you learned?
Yeah, just to kind of amen what Patrick was saying, I think what the biggest thing I'm walking away with is the effectiveness of the online streaming, the amount of people that we've been able to reach, how that's really kind of spread, Restore as far as not only our community, but just, outreach is concerned. I think I've noticed we've got several people that I've been trying to reach out to for years now that have their first experience with Restore has been online because the barrier to entry has been so low. They don't have to go to the building. They can just click on Facebook and kind of get a little bit of taste of it. So that's been real effective. I've been really impressed and pleased with the way our people have stepped up. We preach about being bold and about taking risks a lot, but this has been, I think, in everyone's kind of life, the first time where we've had to really put our money where our mouth is. And so I've seen the people kind of step up. I want to kind of build on that and kind of maintain that mentality going forward. Yeah.
Okay. Mike Mosier, what have you learned? Mike, you're still, you're muted, Mike.
I really like what Clint said there about the people stepping up. We have 5 different guys who have been leading morning devotions through the Gospel of Mark right now. And I have many people in the wing too, just trying to figure out where they can step up, where they can fit, how we can best use them. So that one's definitely been good. I would also say, we were doing the live stream thing not well. So we've just working at refining it. And we really learned even before COVID, like how quickly the gospel message spreads organically. We found out that we had a living room of 40 people meeting in the country of Jordan, watching every Sunday, and in a Muslim area. Just really cool to see how somebody doing a Facebook watch party turned into a church plant in Jordan, really. So that's neat to see the gospel message spread. But on the flip side of that too, I would say what Patrick was saying about people being highly relational. We're seeing that even though we're doing stuff online and even though it's scratching an itch, people are dying to get together. So we did a drive-in church this last week, and you could just tell people were ecstatic to actually be able to see one another.
Right. All right, cool. Thank you. Tony Nelson from Montana. What have you learned?
Not a whole lot that hasn't been shared already. I'm grateful that we had a good tech team in place, and we've been live streaming for several months prior to the crisis. So it was kind of a non-event. I agree that a lot of borders drop. We have people that know us from other places we've served. They're logging in. We also noticed that passing a plate was a value to collect an offering, and our offerings are like tanking. We've had the capacity to do text giving and online giving since we started. Actually, before we started public services. And while we have probably a little older church as a startup, there's still something to be said about getting in front of people and communicating the need. Even though we're trying to do that online, it doesn't seem to be resonating, and people are kind of still really fearful about releasing dollars during this season. I don't know if you guys experienced that, but we saw that was a change. And I agree with the earlier comment. I live in a newer neighborhood, and I have never seen so many families and kids going to the park in 30 years. It's just, it's kind of actually a really good thing. We're looking for opportunities to help, knowing that there'll be some compassion fatigue coming up in the next month or two as this thing delays, and just kind of riding it out. I don't know if anybody's going to mention it, but I personally, I was really struggling emotionally with this whole thing. especially Easter. You know, normally we use Easter as a big measurement for how we're progressing. How the heck do you measure 42 on live Facebook viewers, right? Compared to having 100 or 200 people in your assembly. So I don't know if anybody else felt like Easter was just weird.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about it that everybody was probably feeling that exact same thing. Just for you guys, for your information, if you haven't heard these numbers, the average hit on offering nationwide across all denominations has been between 30% and 50%. So if you have not been affected by in your offerings, then you have a big amen and a praise God in your life. If you are in the 30% bracket, you are also pretty much, you know what, it could be worse. And for any of you guys that are in the 50% bracket that you've taken a hit in your offerings, well, we're going to have to see how this thing goes. And we might have to check some of your techniques. I've been trying to coach as many guys as I've could here in the last couple of weeks with some of these things. Obviously, make sure that one of the first mistakes that most of the guys made in the very first week of going online was that because we are not televangelists by nature, none of us knew how to make the ask on a camera. And so if you guys are struggling with that, I'm just going to have to be blunt with you and say, get over it. And you're going to have to make the ask. But obviously there are certain ways to do it. But you have to remind people that the ministries are still going. We are going to get back into our rented facilities if that's what you have. And we're going to need to have money to make the first month rent when we get back into worship. And so three things. One is make sure that you make the announcement every Sunday morning on your Facebook Live or your pre-recorded messages and say, hey, to make an offering at this time, we have three options for you. One is online, and then make sure you give the basis for the online. You can do this through our website, and then give the website. You can't assume everybody knows everything, and that's the other key factor. Is you have to be so elemental and so repetitive, because people just don't think when they're even watching these things. So it's not just enough to say you can do that on our website. You have to put the website on the screen for people to know how to get there. In this current day right now, since we have all been so social media driven, you guys would be surprised at how many people do not know your church's address, physical address, your mailing address, I should say. So make sure you also put on the screen your mailing address. And then depending on the requirements or the martial law in your area, if you have the ability to meet people at a certain place, then designate a time and simply say, hey, between 9 a.m. and 12 noon, I will meet you at the city park, and we can sit and we can chat. We'll sit 6 feet apart. And if you want to drop off your offering, you can drop off your offering. Give people a way to be able to do this in person as well, so that you have three options for people to drop off their offering. So just keep learning the skill of how to do an online ask. Most of you guys went through training on how to make the ask. And so you're just gonna have to learn a new skill on how to make the ask in front of a video camera. So again, the national average right now has been a 30 to 50% hit across all denominations. And I would imagine most of us are fitting that category. Okay. Brian Snyder in Winslow, Arizona. What are you learning?
Well, I'm learning that I did not have the support structure that I thought I had. It's just been a lot when we have about 4 or 5 people from our local church that are actually still helping by attending online and still giving. They drop it off at my house physically, or they'll mail it. Nobody's using the online giving. We have pushed it. We've even put the little, you mentioned about the address and stuff on the screen. When I made the ask on Sunday, we actually put the address across the screen We put the text code up on the screen as well as the website, just letting people know that they can still give, but absolutely nobody is using that other than, like I said, the 4 or 5 that have been doing it regularly. We most of our attendance is friends and family and supporters from Lifeline all around the United States. We get very few local people that are actually watching and commenting. When we ask people if they watched, no, they didn't. We've tried to do Bible studies online, and they tell us they can't get online, can't do it. We've had prayer meetings nobody showed up to. We've done Bible studies, nobody's attended. We're just getting beat up in this process. Just trying to think if we can even survive this, to be honest with you, mentally. Yeah, it has not gone as well as we had hoped. Financially, that's the only area we're not struggling, because those friends and family across the United States are sending large checks, while our local people are not. So financially, that's not the issue. It's just the support structure of being able to do this and being able to pull it all together has been really challenging. So
Okay.
we still try to call everybody, but I've actually had people tell me, please don't call me. Just we appreciate your prayers, but you don't need to call. And it's actually been a cold shoulder that I've gotten from several people, and I'm just shocked by the whole thing. And so, it's just taken its toll on me. So
I think our newest churches are going to feel this brunt, because we don't have a basis of existence in deep relationships and a history that we can fall back to. So there's no doubt that you and Tony, maybe Kevin out in South Carolina, I don't think he's on here, at least I haven't seen him. You guys are going to probably feel this pretty tough. Willie, you might also. So I'll be working with you guys, and we'll keep up on you guys as much as we can. And we'll let's see if we can circle back to some of this. But I want all of you guys to take a note that 2 of our guys are hurting pretty bad right now. Now, before we move on to the next topic, because I'm trying to watch our time and guard our time, if anybody else is struggling, like 2 of our guys just mentioned, I need for you to unmute yourself and tell us who you are, so that we can also be aware and know, and then be praying for you guys and do some extra follow-up on extra coaching. So I'll give you guys a second here. If anybody is in that same boat, let's hear you out.
Well, I'll just say a couple of things, because you mentioned my name, but I feel like we have the opposite issue that Brian is having. I feel like we've had some really good engagement, and we've had, people that are willing to do stuff, and our finances are just the other end. We're just really struggling. We're reaching a lot of new people. But even that, I think, for the situation, and Sparks on my management team, so is Raleigh and Mosier. We haven't, we're lucky we haven't seen that huge decrease like you were talking, 30%. We've kind of gone back to what we've normally been hitting. So as far as that goes, I've been very encouraged through this. A lot of the stuff that we have been doing, the thing that I've learned through this is that there's so much more that we can do on a Sunday morning that we just haven't been doing as far as service goes. We've gotten really creative and tried to do some fun, different things, and just taken this as an opportunity to try new things. And I think it's paid off a lot. We've really encouraged our people to be engaged on Sunday morning. And so I put a thing out on the Nexus crew to get some of your guys' websites and Facebook Lives. And so the first Sunday, it was, hopefully you saw some of our people jump in and just say hi from Forge and stuff, because we just have tried. We understand that there's that desire for connection. And so we've really encouraged our people to do that. And we've had great success in that on a Sunday morning. We go live about 15 minutes early and put the chat up in the back and just engage with people as they come in and say hi. And it's kind of our virtual greeting time. And so like we'll get over 150 comments on our videos every Sunday morning during service and during stuff like that. And so it's been really good for us. So again, just kind of.
All right, thanks. All right, guys, we're going to move on to our next topic. And so the next topic is this: what will we continue? So let me give you a couple of baselines on what this is going to be. If you are doing midweek videos right now, so on some of the coaching calls that I've been doing with the guys, I've been encouraging all of you to produce teaching videos during the week that people can then use as a platform to do Bible studies by Facebook or Zoom or anything else within their sphere of influence. And what I've been trying to explain to the guys is this, that we sometimes say, it's a struggle to get small groups started. It's a struggle to find small group leaders. The reality right now is that our entire churches can become small groups because they all have a sphere of Facebook friends. And if you produce a Bible study style video during the midweek, that could be anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, then they can share that obviously on their Facebook, and they can create that virtual small group Bible study group. And so we can become a church of small groups overnight without much effort, because it's kind of forced upon us, and it becomes a great blessing, because we probably would have struggled trying to do something like this before, but now it has to become the norm. So if you're doing midweek videos, I'm going to tell you all right now, you have to keep doing it. You can't stop anymore at this point in time. Now that we're all doing Facebook Live or some sort of a platform with a Sunday morning live situation, you guys are going to have to continue doing that as well. If this thing had only lasted 2 weeks, then we could have gone back to what we would all think is normal, and nobody would have thought twice about it, and everybody would have thought, yeah, I can't wait to go back to normal. But now that we're going on 4 weeks and 5 weeks, depending on where you live, Sunday was your 5th week. For others, Sunday was your 4th week. And with 2 more weeks minimum, I think maybe 3 or 4 ahead of us for most of us, then we now have a new way of doing this. And people are not going to easily revert back to what was normal, because this is now the new normal. We will have gone approximately 8 or 9 weeks, and we have just taught everybody a new way of doing church. So we can't stop doing this either. So that means we need to be able to do some upgrades. If we need to do upgrades, we might need to invest some money into making sure that we have better platforms. And there's others of them that are out there called Living as One. Another one's called Brushfire, I believe. Of course, Google, YouTube. So make sure that you start investigating some other platforms that can upgrade your ability to do Facebook Live. Some of these are compatible with Facebook Live, and they come with the easy front screen, so that you can easily click on Give on that front screen. You can easily click on Prayer Requests on the front screen. We have to remember that we are working with across all generations right now that are not accustomed to this, that have now become tech savvy. And even though we are entry-level tech savvy nation now, we have to make it as easy as we possibly can for everybody. So make sure you also post your videos to your website, so that it's very easily clickable on the front page. You don't want people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s to be looking around for everything, because they're only going to get frustrated. So put your videos on your very front page, and you give everyone easy access to these things. So let's open this up now for about 10 minutes. And what are some other things that we're doing right now that we are going to continue in your specific location, that we might all be able to jump in on and do this as well? So who's got some ideas on what they're going to continue to do now?
This is Brian. One of the things that we're going to be doing is continuing the partnership with Christ Church of Flagstaff on our youth and children's ministry. Since we do not have a youth and children's person anymore, that they resigned, we are working on trying to leverage the intern that is working with Christ Church of Flagstaff here. And I think what they're doing as far as a weekly video application and getting the kids engaged into small groups online is something that we'll hope to continue as we move forward in that partnership with Christ Church. They've been a great help to helping us move forward in our children's, and they're willing to even financially support someone from their church to help keep our children's and youth moving forward. So some of the youth that don't even go to our church that are still benefiting from this, we're hoping may actually start coming to the church through something like this. So we're just very grateful and thankful for their partnership, and hopefully we can continue that. Online, the only thing that we do is we use Ecamm Live. It allows us to, it's a lot easier when you're trying to do everything to pull that in. It's very easy to learn. And I know it costs something, but it was just a very easy plug and play application that allows us to put the screens up and toggle between screens very easily while I'm speaking. So hopefully that's an application we can continue to use for our live services as we move forward. It's just been proven to be very helpful, what we're doing right now. So.
Okay. How about somebody else? What are you doing now that you're going to continue to do?
This is Mike. One of the things that we learned pretty early on was with our Thursday night service. Since transitioning back to being portable and meeting inside of our Eagles Club, which is basically having church at the bar, Thursday nights have been a lot more challenging. But just the opportunity to to stream it on Thursday night, and it's still there, it's still available, and it can be on demand. So even if it doesn't fit like the time slot, we can still post it. We can make it go live at whatever time on Thursday, and it still gives us that opportunity, that window for those who can't make it. But we don't have to be limited by venue or by attendance, geography, or anything like that. We can really stretch beyond that. So that's what we're hoping to roll out, or to continue to roll out, at least for a trial period, is the Thursday night service online.
Okay, very good. Anybody else?
David here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think I have more of a question for you guys. Since we started streaming this Sunday, well, it was our first Sunday, and we started with YouTube and Live Church, those platforms. My question for you guys is that too many platforms? Are you guys only using one platform, or is it good to have more than two, more than one, or just keep with one?
Yes, it's in some of the national webinars that I've been on, they encourage you to do at least two minimum, if not three. And because everybody has different means, everyone has different likes. We are a nation of choices. That's why we offer multiple services and all kinds of other things. So some people have preferences of the platform that they use. Some people, even in my own church right now, some people are able to use Google better than some other platform for their particular TV, because there's all these smart TVs out right now. So yes, a minimum of two and up to three.
Thank you.
Anybody else doing something that they're going to keep doing at this point in time?
I think I might have to move her up onto the stage if things go back to an old normal, but I've kind of enjoyed sitting next to my wife during the services, because we're pre-recording and putting them up there. So I'd like to continue that if we can find a way. She's pretty cool.
Well, you could put a table up on your stage and put 2 chairs up there, and the 2 of you can continue to do this as if you're in your living room on your stage at church. No reason why you shouldn't be able to keep doing that. That's what I would tell you. Anybody else?
This is Phil. I'm showing my ignorance because, like David said, we just went live this week. David arrived and he took us live. We've been doing Zoom, not quite the same. Thing I plan to keep doing is delegating this. I plan to retire from ministry having never put a sound system together, and I also now plan to never understand any of this crap. But someone else is going to understand it. And I just think as much as you guys can hand stuff off, we've been doing it on Zoom for a couple of weeks caused a couple of our key leaders to step up and say, no, we're not doing this again. We're going to do it right. And they took it and ran. And we're on 2 platforms, and it looks like we're going to use 3 because that was the argument or the conversation earlier. So hand things off, guys, as much as you can.
That's probably where I'm at. About 80 to 90% of our people are in real communities or a small group situation. And so I've gotten behind my leaders to cheer them on to leading their groups. And I probably wasn't doing that as well as I should have been doing before, but I knew that I had to set up meetings and lead my leaders. And so that's one of the things that I really need to work on and remember that they need it even when things are good. So I know that I haven't had to do as much because my leaders have stepped up and led their groups. And so I just check in. We've been using Zoom for our groups, and I get to just pop in and say hi, and then I leave because it's fun to be able to see them, being a person that loves people. But that's one of the things that I need to do even in times where things are great. I need to continue to empower and give away, let my leaders lead and help them do that. So.
Okay, good. How about one more? Anybody else have something that you're doing that you're now going to continue to do?
Hey, Greg, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. I joined kind of late, but I've enjoyed listening to all the different ideas from guys. A lot of the things that have already stated, I'll not restate because of the same types of experiences. A couple of things, though, that have come through has been, I think, very good for our church, and through remaining flexible and a certain sense of fluidity in how we do ministry, that we're going to continue to promote these things. One is feeding the hunger. And so people definitely have a hunger. And in this time, I think God has blessed us with that great opportunity to feed a hunger. But the other is really trying to encourage the thirst in our people to be together. And so whether the virtual connect before the service, as someone mentioned earlier, or during the midweek, and we do the midweek things too, but just really encouraging the thirst of our people for each other and to be together. And one of the things that we've really been doing is talking about the party we're going to have when this is over. And obviously we'll have to take into consideration the continued caution people will feel, but still we need to come off of this and really continue to feed that thirst and that appreciation for once again being able to be together physically.
Right. Guys, a lot of you guys may not know Jerry Nelson. Jerry is our church planner south of Houston Metroplex, and he's down in an area called Dickinson. And so glad you're on the call today, Jerry. Glad you could join us. Otherwise, you'd be teaching school today.
That's exactly right.
All right. Okay, guys, I want to move on to our third topic. And again, a lot of this is for the sake of some time. We want to get as much information out on this whiteboard as we possibly can, and then we can circle back in our extra 15 minutes and maybe go over any topic that you guys want to hit again. So the third one is going to be similar to the second one, but it's now what? And under this category of now what, we've never had a hard, fast rule with Nexus in saying that you cannot count people who watch online. I will tell you guys right now that we've been doing online at my church for 3 years now, and our online counts stink. I mean, they're terrible. Facebook Live for us is not a big hit. Now, what we have to understand in church planting, right? Because this is mission type work. Every culture and every city is going to be different from the next. So for me, in my semi-rural / rural community, there's just a mindset in the semi-rural world is if I'm in church, I'm in church. And if I'm not, I'm not. And so people don't even go back and look at the thing later on. Right now, our Facebook Live numbers are off the chart. But it's making me think now, and I think all of us are going to have to think this through, is do we now start counting Facebook Live? Because again, by the time this is all said and done, we're looking at 8 to 9 weeks of creating a whole new way of doing church and a whole new habit. And that's the critical factor. It's not just a whole new way, but it's a new habit. Again, if we had only done this for 2 weeks, that'd be a different thing. Everyone would have gone back to normal and nobody ever would have batted an eye. But at this point in time, we're going 8 to 9 weeks on this thing, and it's definitely going to be different. So here's the metric, in case you've never known. And here's the biggest reason why I've never counted these people into my count is because I never knew what the metric was. So the metric right now, prior to COVID, is 1.8 persons per live hit. Okay, so if you're doing Facebook Live and you have a hit on Facebook Live, then the statistical metric is 1.8 persons per hit. Currently, right now, according to the guru think tanks of Ed Stetzer and his folks, that metric is now, they don't know for sure, but it could be anywhere from 4 to 6 people per hit in the current COVID situation. And that's because a whole family of 4 is watching. Sometimes 2 families are coming together. Sometimes grandma and grandpa are coming over because they can't figure out Facebook Live. And so you've got 5 or 6 people. And so you have all kinds of things going on. So the current hit could be anywhere from 4 to 6 people. But when this is done, guess what? That metric pretty much is going to go back to 1.8. So if you're going to start counting these counts into your attendance, then I would probably create a new category that has your in-church count and then your Facebook Live count or your video count. And I would only do the live portion because if we're going to start, because there's no way that we can figure out on the views, right? Because the view happens after you post it. And after you post it, that means somebody could have accidentally clicked on it and they were on there for a second and clicked out, but it goes down as a view. So we can't count the post views. We can only count what's live. So that's something that we're going to have to consider for all of us in the Nexus network, because we've never really been in this situation before. And coming out of it 9 weeks later, we have completely taught a new way to do church. And so we're going to have to consider how we count that count. But it's going to be according to the metric of 1.8 persons. All right. So I'm not saying we are. I think that's something that Phil and I are going to have to keep talking about, but that's something we're going to have to consider, guys. Something else about now what? The now what also is going to be, how do we, again, I kind of briefly talked about this at the beginning, but is now going to be a time to upgrade the platforms that we use? Is there a better way? Like, should we buy better cameras? Should we buy better lighting? Now, I know some of us are going to be financially struggling coming out of this thing, but maybe a year from now, or well, maybe 6 months from now, 8 months from now, 1 year from now, if the finances have reversed and things are back to normal, that might be the time that we come back and say, okay, let's do an assessment of how we do this online, and can we do a better job at it? So anything on there that you guys want to talk about? The now what?
This is Robbie. Greg, I have a question.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is the right time, but I'm just, I know there's a lot of talk of Facebook Live. We pre-record and put it on YouTube. I kind of would love to hear at some point in this conversation the pros and cons of all that and how you count on YouTube versus Facebook Live and that kind of stuff, because, and other platforms that people are using as well. So.
Yeah. So what, I mean, again, I might be talking out of my own ignorance as well, but if it isn't live, then I'm going to suggest that we don't count it, because we don't know the exact metric and the statistics of that, of people who watch 10 seconds compared to a full 60-minute worship service. So, but the metric across all live platforms is going to be 1.8.
This is David here. Something that I've seen, I don't know if you guys heard about YouTube Premiere and Facebook Premiere. So it's pretty much, you pre-record the service and you put it out there, and it gives like a live feeling. So you can see how many people are watching it at the same time. So you can actually pre-record your service and have the, accurate numbers on how many people are watching it live. Not total views, but how many people are constant watching it live. And that's how we did it this Sunday. That's how we kept our numbers with constant people watching it live through the sermon. So that's Facebook Premiere, and I mean, we did it on YouTube Premiere and on the Live Church platform as well.
All right, thanks, David. Robbie, is that helping you any?
It does. The only thing is, now that we've been doing this 4 weeks, our people are conditioned to watching it whenever they want to.
Right.
So if I go live, at this point, then I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the kind of count that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So right now for me, in my statistics, and you guys know I'm completely anal about all of my statistics, but all I'm simply doing right now is keeping track of my live views, and I'm not keeping track of anything else, nor am I attaching a number value to it, because I have no way of knowing anything right now. And I'm not going to inflate numbers and say, look at that, I had 1,500 people this last week. We can't even begin to go there. So all I'm charting right now in my statistics, I'm not even counting anything really. I'm just saying we had X amount of live views, end of story. And so all of my numbers I can't really do numbers this year until we get back on track. And so I'll do a first half of the year and a second half of the year. And that's the way I'm going to do my charts for 2020 is, up to March 15th. And then whenever we get back to worship, it'll be, let's just say for the sake of a date, it'll be May 3rd through the rest of the year. And I'm going to look at it as two different segments to the year. And this whole entire 6 to 9 week time frame is going to be, can't figure that out. So I'm only going to count the lives because I know it's very tempting for us to go, but we had 2,500 people watch it throughout the week, but we don't know if that was 10 seconds.
Can I throw something in there?
Yeah.
One of the things I've loved, we've done the premiering of so I pre-record them on YouTube and Facebook, and is what that's enabled me to do is throughout my message, there's several times where I have questions where I ask people to engage with those in the room with them, or to engage with me on the chats. By pre-recording and having them up there, I have two windows on my computer, one with the Facebook and one with the YouTube videos. As they're going, I am live interacting with my people, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback on that. So that has been a benefit for me, Robbie, and others. I mean, we can count metrics. I could care less about metrics and counting. I mean, I'd prefer to not even talk more about them because they're digital at this point. And unless it is the new normal in 4 weeks, then I care. But I want to engage my people and go deeper there.
Yeah, but here's what I'm telling you. That is going to be the new normal, because after 9 weeks of doing this, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be more comfortable and more accustomed to it. And even when we're given the all clear to go back to worship, there's going to be a lot of people who are still not going to go back for another month because they're afraid. So what I'm saying to all of us is this: we're going to have to look at that metric to know how the health of our church is going forward. And as far as the now what is concerned, the reason why we have to keep doing this, guys, is because of this. You now have, basically, you have two churches on your hands. You have the church that's going to be physically present, and from now on, you're always going to have the church that is going to be virtual. And that is what this is all forcing us to have a reality of. And so your virtual church, if you stop doing this at this point in time, you are basically telling people that you have never met that we don't really value you. We did this because we had to. We did this because it was what was going on. But sorry you don't live near me. Sorry you live in Ohio. And sorry you can't come to worship with us, but we're going back to normal. And you lose, basically. If we come back to this idea of salvation hanging in the balance, then you have a responsibility, as far as I'm concerned, that we have to engage both the physical church and the virtual church. And we have a responsibility to those people as well. So that's where this is changing everything. This is where we're going to have to really get our heads wrapped around this idea that we are no longer the same church that we were just 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago to our current point. And it's going to be that much more different 4 more weeks from now. So, yeah, I mean, look, Nexus has never been a big stickler about, how big you are. In fact, we stopped that kind of talk about 2 years ago, and we've all done well and responded well by not asking, well, how many people are you running? And I'm not promoting that. Again, I'm just simply letting us know that that's the metric. And we now have 2 churches on our hands. All of us do. And it's still the church, the physical church, and it's the virtual church, because we've all got them. And some of you guys have had people from different countries, and that's the cool thing about this. So, I've got some people watching from the Philippines right now, because I've got 4 Filipino families in my church, and they've been telling their family, hey, watch a Facebook Live. Now here's the crazy thing about this, guys. They've kind of been doing this for the last 3 years, but they never made that invitation before. But now that we're all thinking about it and we're all forced into this world, now they're telling their family in Philippines, hey, you ought to watch it live, as if they've never known about it before. And that's part of my point here is you have to be so repetitive and elemental about what we do when we do these things live, because you may have made 10 announcements about it and they've not heard a single one. Now they need it, and now they're listening. Okay, so that's on the metrics and that kind of thing I want to go over. Again, just trying to guard our time. We got a few minutes left, and I know we're going to spill over, but we got to talk about the 4th part of our discussion today, and that's re-engagement of the physical church. So how do we reemerge from the situation that we've been in, whether it's 8 weeks or 9 weeks? We all know that the stay in place order is supposed to expire on April 30th. Now, each one of us in all of our states and all of our municipalities, the governor can make their own choice as to what to do after the federal mandate. Then the local governors can take over. And then after the local governors take over, your own municipalities can take over. And that's going to be whether your county is run by a county judge or a county commissioner, or the local mayor. Everybody is going to be empowered to do their own thing. So already in the state of Texas, our governor is already looking at how he's going to put Texas back to work. And he's looking at doing it maybe before the federal order is done. So every different state is going to start jockeying for a position, and that's where politics is going to come back into this thing, guys. So that's, in one sense, that's neither here nor there. The thing that I'm trying to get us all to think about now is, how do we reemerge and reengage? So what I'm going to tell you is this: we're going to have to treat this thing like we're all going to relaunch. So you're going to have to come back to plan A, plan B, and plan C. Sorry about that, guys, but that's the reality that we all face. So here's what's going to happen. Either your plan A is going to be, okay, so I'm going to start looking at how I do church again starting May 3rd in our rented facility, or in our churches, or whatever we've got. Maybe that's plan A. Maybe plan B is going to be, all right, I think they're going to, because here's the thing, we all don't know, right? All we know is that we know that May 3rd might be the earliest. So maybe that's our plan A. Maybe they're going to extend this thing for 2 more weeks. So maybe we're going to be looking at the 3rd week in May to be able to get back into worship. All right, so maybe that's going to be my plan A. I just want you guys to start thinking about your plan A and your plan B, because here's the thing as well. If May 3rd is our plan A, we're only 2 weeks away. Now, as far as other ways to think about this, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, okay, so May 3rd, we're going to go back to worship. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-enter into a soft launch phase. That's what I'm going to do, guys. So I'm going to do maybe 2 or 3 weeks of a soft launch, because even though we can go back to church, there's going to be a lot of people are going to go, I'm too afraid still, and they're going to stay home. So I'm going to have my virtual church and I'm going to have my physical church. And I'm going to do that for maybe 3 weeks. I'm going to do a soft launch. And then let me get to my calendar. So that means May 24th. May 24th, I'm going to look at doing, once again, a hard launch or a grand opening. And that means that next week, if you follow the typical launch phase, correct? That means next week, guess what I'm doing, guys? I'm going to be looking for a mailer that I'm going to send out. And I'm going to be looking to send that mailer out the week of the 10th or the 17th, inviting everybody back to a grand opening on the 24th. And I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet. I'm either going to call it a grand opening or I'm going to call it an open house. But all I'm trying to do is re-engage my entire community to say, Creekside Christian Fellowship is back in business. Doors are open. You're all invited. And anybody who's been watching us on Facebook Live, we would love to meet you for the first time. Come and join us in person, or you can stay watching us online, whatever you want to do. And now I'm back to the metric of 1.8 persons, and I start counting those people. But that's the process that I'm going to be going through. And then that way, what happens here is this. If they extend it for 2 more Sundays to the 10th, then guess what? My new soft launch day is going to be the 17th, the 24th, and the 31st. And that means my grand opening or open house is going to be on June 7th. Now, at least I've got my parameter set, my base set, and now the weeks can be sliding back and forth any direction it needs to slide. But that's the way I'm going to be operating my deal. You guys can do this any way you want to do this, obviously, because that's the way we coach you guys. But I'm just going to kind of give you the parameters of how I'm going to be approaching my re-engagement and the re-emergence, as Stetcher's been calling it, the re-emergent stage. What I'm also going to do is somewhere within that first or second week of the grand opening phase, all right, not the soft launch phase, but my grand opening or open house Sunday, the week after I do that Sunday, I'm going to start honoring people. And I'm going to honor all of our volunteers that helped with worship, doing song virtually, or making Zoom happen, or making Facebook Live happen. And we're just going to celebrate a bunch of various volunteers that were behind the scenes making things happen. The other Sunday, what we're going to do is we're going to do another honoring Sunday, and we're going to honor all of our nurses and people who had to keep working during the process. So the so-called 16 essentials that most states have been kicking around, we're going to honor people that have been on that essential list, and we're going to thank them for what they've done. So those are some things for you to be thinking about in the re-emergent stage. And again, you can decide how you want to do it, any way you want to do it. But if there's any other ideas that you guys have been thinking about, let's hear them. We're back to an open floor for us to share ideas on how we re-emerge.
Greg, I actually would even take it a step further, not A, B, C, but I think we need 4 or 5 options on each level, because none of us know what it's going to look like when we're allowed to even meet again. Does there have to be a certain amount of spaces and chairs? Are we going to allow to be social inside a building, or is it going to be just you have to be? So I think just thinking way outside the box and several different levels on each one, because of the unknown.
Yeah, well, you see, you bring up a good point, because we don't know how the government is going to want this to be done. Like, if you think about it, they staged us down, correct? First it was we can meet in groups of 250, then it was we can meet in groups of 100, and then they just cut the bottom out and said, okay, no more groups of 10. So I don't know if they're going to come back and say, hey, you can meet in groups of 100, or you can meet in groups of 250. Depending on what the number is, once again, guys, this is a good reason for you to start thinking about your plan A, your plan B, and your plan C. And one of the reasons why we did this, today on the 13th is because no matter what, May is only 2 weeks away. And so we've got to start getting this thing ready and get this thing wrapped around our heads. If they allow us to come back into groups of 50, you have to make a decision. Is that even worth it for me for us to come back? Now, if you are one of our new churches and you're at 50 or less, you could say, you know what, let's open the doors and let's go for it. If you are a church over 50, you're going to have to think twice about that. That means maybe plan A is, as soon as they make the announcement, then I can do 2 worship services, and we're just going to cut it off. As soon as we got 50 people in the building, we're going to have a volunteer stand outside and say, hey, we're at our maximum. Come back in 1 hour, and we're going to have a second worship service, and we'll see you then at that point in time. And you're going to have to pick one of the 2 to Facebook Live. And so good point. And that is the reason why we're talking about this reemergent stage, because it's going to be all over the map for a lot of us. All I'm wanting to get at is don't be behind the game, guys. We are within the window now of opening up. And if we don't have a game plan, then what's going to happen is we're going to look like the day that they told us we couldn't meet anymore. And we're going to be scrambling to try and figure out what we're going to do to come back online. And I don't want any of us to scramble to come back online. So it's going to come back to one of those other phrases that I've said to all of you guys that I coached from day one, which is, we don't know what's going to happen, but we can't look like we don't know what's happening. We have to be the church that looks like we had a plan from day one. So, Jeff, good point. Thank you for bringing that up. What other things are you guys thinking of?
One of the things that I did when this all started was I got a directory out, just a good old paper directory out to everybody in the church, and then I challenged everybody to be now a pastor. You're in pastoral care. You need to be contacting everybody within the body that you feel the Spirit is leading you to, just to say, hey, how are you doing? And that has blossomed into a lot of good relationship building. Benevolence has been happening. People have been out of work, and there's been money flowing over to the people that are out of work just because everybody got everyone else's cell phone number. And pastoral care is actually higher than it's ever been for us, because I released the people to go do pastoral care. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So some of you guys may not know Rob Wilson. Rob is in Las Cruces, New Mexico. He's also one of our co-vocational pastors. And so, yeah, thank you, Rob, for sharing that. Good information. How about somebody else on how we reemerge? Anything else you guys have been thinking about? Maybe already you've been putting some plans together. Okay. Guys, I just want to encourage you again. First of all, as the former coach for the majority of you, and still coaching a few of you, Robbie is now one of our coaches. Matt's one of our coaches. Patrick is one of our coaches. And I'll speak for all of us. We're really proud of what you guys have been doing. We all became televangelists overnight. And you guys were scrambling and putting things together. You guys were being kicked out of your schools left and right. And yet everybody has figured it out, and we've done well. You're meeting new people through new methods. And now you have to keep these new methods going. So I just want to tell you all, we're very proud of you. I know Phil is, it's got to be a proud papa of the whole entire network, getting all of this done. And so I think we also want to make sure that we thank Spark, and we want to make sure that we thank Barb for their work in behind the scenes, making sure that everybody had a chance to get on the PPP, and walk us through a lot of those kinds of things. So just want to tell you all, we're proud of you, and we want to make sure that we're thanking people that were helping make a lot of these things happen. Is there anything that we need to circle back on, guys, that we need to discuss in the next 10 minutes that we've got left? And if you need to say something, go ahead and unmute yourself and speak up.
Hey, I got something I wanted to share that's been helpful for us, Greg.
Yeah.
Is on the offering. The phrase that I've been using is, we have to keep the church strong, that our community is looking at us for answers, whether it's resources for people in need. And then each week what we do is we share a story of what their money's going to. So like this next week, we're going to be showing our missionaries in Germany. We got like a 15-second blurb from them just saying, hey, thanks for your continued support. If we cast vision, I think people are more willing to give than out of fear. Like, if we don't give, the church is going to shut down. We can't use that kind of language for giving. We can at a time give at a need, like, hey, our next need is this as a church. We can do that for a little while, but I think if we cast vision and to share stories of what their money is going for. 2 weeks ago, we showed a picture of meals that we packed on Super Bowl Sunday that arrived in Haiti, and it was an 18-wheeler full of meals, and we just showed the picture and said, hey, the meals that we packed, they've landed, they're going to into the areas with the greatest need. And I'm just so proud of you guys, your generous hearts. So anyway, just keep reaffirming your church and casting vision when you make the ask for financial time during your services.
Good deal. Hey guys, it goes without saying, be praying for everybody, but let's make sure we have some extra prayers for Tony and Brian, and two of our newest plants, and they're having an extra hard time. So make sure you keep those guys in prayer.
I'd like to do that, Greg, before we get off. Yeah.
I was gonna. Well, yeah, I'm handing it over to you now. You can close us out and finish us up.
I would just remind you guys, another phrase we use fairly often within the family here is that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And you guys have all been assessed, interviewed, prodded, scoped, probed. We know you're entrepreneurs at heart, and this is an opportunity for us to play to our natural strengths. Sometimes the church gets up and running and it stops feeling like an entrepreneurial thing. You guys know what I'm talking about. We stop being a planter and become nothing but a pastor. Well, this is an opportunity to get back to being a planter. An opportunity to kind of take the cap off and just kind of say, well, what could we do? So I just want to encourage you guys to lean into this, and I look forward very much to seeing how it plays out. And I do want to pray. And so, Father, I just ask that your blessing would be with our guys that are struggling right now. I'm hearing that some guys are struggling with money. Some guys are struggling with not having teams. Some guys are struggling with their people not being consistent. Some of us are struggling with just trying to figure out what does it even mean to go online. And yes, Father, we know that you can take each and every one of us through this. And this is an opportunity for us to come through and be able to say, yay, God. Awesome God. I preach from 116, Psalm 116 right now, and that was yesterday for Easter. And Father, you are the God who saves us. So we look to you, and we just rely deeply on you. And I pray that we would be able to help our people dig deep and discover you in this time. We pray for life change in our people that's not like the 9/11 little flash we had, where the church is filled up for a month. Help us to play to our strengths. We're up close and personal, Father. That's really how we have to do our work. Most of the guys on the phone right now, I'm looking at the screen, and we don't have huge mega churches where we can just stand in the pulpit and dispense wisdom. We actually have to get up close, and it's like knife work, Father. It's like a knife fight. Help us to get up close and help us to love our people and help them to know that they are deeply loved, not only by us, but because of us, they know they're loved by you. So help this crisis, this event to be a turning point. We really can't go back. We don't want to. I've been hearing from too many of the guys. They really don't want to go back. They see things that are happening right now that it's opened our eyes. So bless us with that. We pray, Father, in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Hey guys, don't be out there hurting on your own. Call us, call one another. I just encourage you guys to don't try to carry this on your own, and don't do the macho thing where you feel like I got to just be tough. I got to get through this. You don't need to do that. Anybody that's ever planted a church knows that we barely get through by the skin of our teeth. It's just you barely make it. And I think it's because the Lord knows that the character of a church can only be formed through trial, through crises, through things like this. And so it sometimes has nothing to do with your leadership. Moses ended up 40 years in the desert extra. Why? Moses didn't do anything wrong. Moses was with a bunch of idiots. That's why he had 40 extra years in the desert. You guys are going to have to go through some stuff in order to grow a church, and it has nothing to do, and it does not reflect on your leadership level. It reflects on the fact that you are leading a group of people that God says are like a bunch of sheep, not exactly bright. And that's okay. We just have to get them through this. So take advantage of this. Let us know how we can help you. I know all you guys, I think, are probably making the application or have made the application for the federal funds. I know Spark and Barb jumped into that and had all that sorted. And if you got any other questions about that, you know not to bring those to me. Take those to Spark or Barb. But
hey, Phil, I have one question.
Yeah.
Can we call our people idiots, or is that probably not good?
Call them sheep.
Okay, I'll use that.
You know, cows will go through a very narrow gate because they go through one at a time, and they kind of establish a hierarchy, and cows just do that. But did you know that sheep, they won't go through a narrow gate, because what they'll all do is they'll all edge up to the gate. You have to have a wide gate for sheep because no one wants to be the first one through. And all of a sudden they get pushed through, but from the sheep from behind. And suddenly one of them realizes I have no choice but to go through. And then they all decide they have to get through at the same time because nobody wants to be the last. They're just like our people. Mm-hmm. And you just have to understand that, hey, Moses, Joshua, and Caleb got an extra 40 years out in the desert because they were surrounded by idiots. Don't go call them that, but just accept that that's part of our job is we have to lead our people through formulas and through situations that shape them and develop them. So I don't really have any other key advice to give you guys other than just hang in there and play this game now. And we went live last week, and we were doing it in other ways, but now we went live. And there's other things in the comments section. I tried to grab those, and before I get off, I will grab some of those chat comments and make sure they're in this. And then I'll send this to Spark, and he'll figure out how my notes can get out to you guys. Greg, was there anything else?
Nope. I think that's it. Appreciate you guys. I'm glad you all jumped on.
Just real quick. This is getting recorded, and I'll upload it to the Nexus Family Only part of the website. along with whatever Phil's going to send me, so you guys can go back to it. Okay?
They'll be praying for us too. Now that I'm a televangelist, I told Barb she really needs to step up her game with the hair and the makeup, and she's fighting me.
I'm listening to you. I can hear you.
Oh, she's on here. All right, love you guys.
Busted.